If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. You're listening to the Brandon Lawson series. This is episode 3, Resolution. We are going to examine the latest information in the Brandon Lawson case and whether or not closure and resolution is coming. Clothes found, remains found. Is it really Brandon Lawson? And what explanations do we have for this timeline of finding the evidence and why it wasn't found before? As always, if you enjoy the podcast, find it interesting and informative, want to support Mindshock, get more mind-shocking content out there, both to bring awareness to true crime cases, missing persons, as well as various topics not discussed in the mainstream with logic and reason at the forefront. You can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, like and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier, so you can support Mindshock that way. Also, if you want to become a YouTube member, we have started YouTube memberships for those who want to be privy to members-only content on YouTube and advanced conversations in cases and topics that are for the next level listeners who are familiar with the basic information in various cases or topics, and that way we don't have to go over the basics and we can focus on higher level conversation. So you can become a Mindshock YouTube member today as well. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. All right, so we've gone over the tape, the 911 call tape. Very curious. I mean, there's a lot of information there. Some still believe that it was a manufactured tape and that it was actually crafted by the parties responsible, possibly individuals close to Brandon Lawson. But this was posted today, February 4th, 2022, on the Help Find Brandon Lawson YouTube page it says it's by Help Find Brandon Lawson. I'm assuming this is run by LaDessa, Brandon's partner, so this is what it says. To all the members of the Help Find Brandon Lawson page, first and foremost, I want to tell each one of you that I appreciate all of your support, kind words, prayers, assistance, concern, and love that has been given to me and my family over the course of the last 8.5 years. Being Brandon's partner in life and knowing him, I know that he would feel hallowed knowing that so many people took the time to share his story. It is deeply appreciated and has helped our family in so many ways to find comfort. Answers are something that we have searched for, and today I'm sharing with you that we now have some of those answers. It is with a heavy heart and great difficulty that we have an important update regarding Brandon's case. Our family's long-awaited journey to find answers draws near. For years, we have gone to great lengths to search the area of Brandon's last known whereabouts. Many searches have been conducted in various ways to locate any potential clues. We have had a circle of supporters assisting us in locating Brandon throughout the process. Recently, one of those advocates led a small search party in the vicinity of Brandon's last known location. The search team came upon some clothing that were consistent with Brandon's clothing. Authorities and local law enforcement were contacted and were able to take the evidence in for testing. The Texas Rangers conducted a search that ultimately led them to discover human remains in this area. Although DNA tests are needed to confirm identification, it is in our hearts that we know that it is Brandon. Our main focus throughout this entire ordeal has been to bring Brandon home so that he can finally rest in peace and our family can have the answers that we have prayed for. I know that many of you will have questions, but at this time we do not have those answers. We will keep everyone notified of all new developments. I ask that you please respect our family's privacy at this time while we wait for results. Brandon's parents, his children, his siblings, his family, and I thank you for your unwavering support over the years in helping to find Brandon. Okay. She names all of these people, thanking them for their help and support, the private investigators, and all supporters that we appreciate all your dedication and tenacity through this entire journey. Lastly, Brandon will forever remain in our hearts of all who loved him. We are extremely grateful that we can lay him to rest and our family can have peace knowing he is home. Our love for Brandon will get us through what is yet to come. All our love, LaDessa and family. Okay, so just to recap here, apparently there was a new search party in the vicinity of his last known whereabouts. If they were truly his last known whereabouts, again, I don't know how to determine that definitively, but this new search found clothing consistent with Brandon's clothing. So now, from reading this, consistent with Brandon's clothing doesn't necessarily mean Brandon's clothing. And these remains, again, the DNA tests have not been performed or concluded as of this writing. So this is all unknown. So it could be somebody else. It's been 8.5 years. The area has been searched many, many times. Now, obviously, in quite a bit percentage of cases, remains are found that in areas that were previously searched. So this is nothing new. This doesn't mean it's not him. It could be him. Again, DNA tests will be done. When they confirm it's him with conclusive evidence, not these lower percentages of DNA confirms, but let's assume latest DNA testing technology relatively accurate, unlike previous generations. Although who knows, in the next generation we might find out that this generation of DNA tests was not as accurate as purported, and history repeats. But let's just assume for the moment that the DNA tests are relatively accurate. If it is him, does that mean he was there the whole time? Because, again, yes, in certain percentage of cases, remains are found in areas previously searched, but also, in a certain percentage of cases, bodies have been brought back to locations, and that doesn't necessarily mean they were killed at that location, but maybe they were. The body was moved, then brought back. But all of these searches, there's a lot of curiosities regarding the searches. Because in the neighboring areas, there were certain areas of land that were not allowed to be searched. Some believe they were connected to law enforcement, possibly even a sheriff in the area. I think that's what was reported online. I don't know if they actually did the searches for the deeds for those for the plots of land to definitively verify that. Apparently, some people did. They said they did. This was posted online, of course, again. This is Mindshock, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. So whether or not, I mean, if it was a common name as well, it could be somebody with a similar name, not necessarily the sheriff. I mean, there's endless variables to explain that it doesn't have to be police corruption, of course. But if it was, that would explain a few things as well. I mean, this is a relatively unusual case. That's why it's gotten so much attention. We also have to find a way to explain away why these highly trained canines did not find his body in all these numerous searches in the same area. So let's go to missingbrandonlawson.com for case questions. I don't see a post date for this, but all the responses, the immediate responses are April 24th, 2014. So it would seem that it was posted around this time, clarifying certain issues in the Brandon Lawson case. So let's go over this. Brandon was last seen when he left his San Angelo home 11:53 p.m. August 9th, 2013. He called his brother for help after running out of gas, Highway 277, near Bronte, Texas. When his brother arrived, there was no sign of Lawson, there was no damage to the vehicle, and his keys and his cell phone were gone. Brandon phoned 911 that night, telling dispatch he needed help. There has been no activity on his bank accounts or his cell phone since that time. He has a wife and 4 young children who need your help in bringing Brandon home. All right, another point here, again, vehicles being abandoned and abandoned not by the missing person is relatively common in true crime cases. So to just assume that he was the one that left the vehicle where it was found, I mean, that's nothing more than an assumption. Again, there have been many, many cases where a killer has left their victim's car abandoned elsewhere, not at the point of abduction, not at the murder site. So again, we have to keep this in mind. It's almost astounding how many so-called true crime aficionados just simply don't keep that in mind. Again, I'm not saying that's what happened or didn't happen, but again, if you're not new to true crime cases, you have to keep that in mind. So let's continue here. Misleading media report. Online news article written by Mrs. McCutcheon, the wife of Sheriff McCutcheon. We've broken apart her report and added our own comments in italics. So her headline states, and of course that was another disputed issue, that this reporter, Mrs. McCutcheon, she's the wife of the sheriff. So if information needs to be controlled, I mean, can you say conflict of interest? Again, if they're all innocent, that's perfectly fine, but conflict of interest nonetheless, especially if they own property in the surrounding area of where he was last seen. Again, I'm not saying that's true or untrue. Her headline states, law enforcement concludes man not in Cook County. This headline is misleading and without basis. One cannot conclude because a body was not found in a specific area searched that the person sought is no longer in the entire county. And that's another curiosity, because if these newfound remains are actually Brandon Lawson's, how do you explain the sheriff's wife writing this report and these searches? I mean, are they all incompetent? I don't know. We're just going over information. Continuing on here. Members of Texas Search and Rescue and various law enforcement agencies began arriving last Wednesday evening for Thursday's massive search for Brandon Lawson. This latest search seems to stem from an incident which occurred just before 1 a.m. Friday, August 9th, 2013. It began with a 911 call about a stranded motorist just south of Bronte on Highway 277. Maybe, so was this really posted right? Was this posted closer to, so within a year or so, this breakdown was posted? Okay, but it's referring, of course, to all the way to the date of the disappearance. She did not elaborate that the 911 call was made by a motorist, from what his wife was told, a trucker who called 911 to report a truck parked in an unsafe manner on the highway. The driver was not in the vehicle when Chief Deputy Brandon Neal arrived just after 1 a.m. Actually, let me interject here again, because I don't know if we talked about this. Was Brandon Lawson the type of guy who, even if he ran out of gas, he would at least roll the truck off to the side of the road in a safe manner instead of letting someone else crash into it? Or, again, if you want to go with the theory that he was on drugs, he might not have been in his right mind to do that. But that's also an assumption. Or is it more likely that a killer hastily abandoning a vehicle might not care if they abandoned it in the most safe fashion? Okay, continuing on here, the driver was not at the vehicle when Chief Deputy Brandon Neal arrived just after 1 a.m. However, at this time, investigation has revealed that Brandon Lawson was hiding in the brush due to an outstanding felony warrant, watching Deputy Neal while speaking to his brother Kyle Lawson on his phone. Again, how many assumptions are here? This statement was according to now that was part of the media report. Here's their breakdown rebutting that. This statement was according to Brandon's brother, who was en route to rescue Brandon after he ran out of gas. Again, allegedly. The statement he made is confusing for a number of reasons. First, I believe this was his brother's opinion and not entirely factual. I believe he may have said this to cover for Brandon's absence from the vehicle, as opposed to Brandon told him on the cell phone he was hiding. If Brandon was afraid of his outstanding warrant for arrest from years earlier, why would Brandon himself call 911? All good questions here. All good questions. Why would Brandon himself specifically ask for law enforcement if he wanted to hide? Thus, this makes no sense. Additionally, the deputy at the scene did not tell Kyle that Brandon himself called 911. Surely, that would have heightened Kyle Lawson's awareness and fear that his brother had to be in some kind of trouble to have called 911. And that's a really good point. I mean, people involved in drugs, criminal activities, warrants, I mean, to call the popo, that's kind of like a last resort. I mean, that's something, they wouldn't do that unless they were really in trouble. That's a really good point. Was Brandon hiding out and then found himself in trouble after the deputy and his brother left the scene? The girlfriend of Kyle says Brandon placed a call to them and was incoherent, and all she caught was, "I'm bleeding." This also not reported in the details of the reporting to the public. Again, this is from the website missingbrandonlawson.com. Was it that Deputy Neal, who was dispatched, came due to the trucker's 911 call, and he himself was not aware that Brandon himself called 911 yet? Why wouldn't he have told Kyle that your brother called 911 unless he did not know? All good points here. All good points. Had Kyle Lawson knew that his brother made a 911 call himself, I believe the entire scenario would have played out differently on the night in question. Instead, Kyle and his girlfriend go back home thinking Kyle is just hiding out and perhaps his bleeding was from scratches in the brush, expecting him to be home in the morning and the two of them would laugh over his bad luck. No family was aware that Brandon was in distress with his clear, "I need the cops" call, including his "please hurry." No family was told that Brandon called 911, not even LaDessa. They found out when they saw it on a cell phone report. Why did the family have to tell the officer, have to tell the police after seeing cell phone records that a call was made for help by Brandon? Why was that also left out of this news report? Okay, this is crazy. I mean, this is just mind-shocking because do we have any other missing persons case where the family found out through phone records that their missing loved one was the one who called police and police failed them to inform them of a call from their missing loved one? I mean, this is insanity. And then, of course, you have the wife of the sheriff who's in charge of writing newspaper articles to control the narrative. Again, I'm not saying that she's dishonest. She might be 100% honest. But the conflict of interest is still there because if there's some kind of complicity on law enforcement or no law enforcement complicity at all, but they simply don't want law enforcement to look bad because they couldn't find this guy, he called 911, etc., and they try to downplay their incompetence even if they're not responsible for Brandon Lawson's disappearance. Either way, conflict of interest exists. Okay, clarification. Brandon's wife learned he called 911 while reviewing cell phone records on the Tuesday following his missing status while itemizing a detailed cell report provided by Verizon to law enforcement. This report showed more details, including text, than a phone bill that one would get on their own phone bill, which only shows incoming or outgoing. Either way, the police did not tell her. This is crazy. So, wow. Okay. Wow. According to LaDessa Lofton, no one has heard from Lawson since this time. The Coke County, and this is back to the article by the sheriff's wife. According to LaDessa Lofton, no one has heard from Lawson since this time. The Coke County Sheriff's Office, in conjunction with DPS and the Texas Rangers, has already conducted an aerial search and a ground grid search without revealing any clues to his whereabouts. So they have an aerial search, a ground grid search, and I mean, we're talking Texas Rangers, DPS, Sheriff's Department, various law enforcement and search and rescue teams. They didn't find any clothing or remains, and yet now it's found. I mean, this is a little strange. Just call me crazy, but it's a little strange. Okay, let's, the clarification here. This aerial search was done using infrared, which would identify a heated body as in alive, and was done a number of days after Brandon went missing. Infrared is not going to pick up a non-heated body. Okay, so days later, this search was done. Now, would they, if it's an aerial search, would they not be able to see a body? I mean, this is the desert here. I mean, I guess unless it was under some kind of brush or something and hidden properly, but a grid search, an on-the-ground grid search certainly would reveal that. The article again, to rule out the possibility that Lawson had become lost in the brush and died, Coke County Sheriff Wayne McCutcheon approved a search using cadaver or human remains dogs. This search was scheduled for Thursday, October 24th, 2013. That is kind of crazy, though, because he goes missing August 9th. He's last seen August 9th. And this cadaver search is done October 24th. Wow. Either way, still, of course, they would still find remains, but it's just crazy that, and why didn't they? And what are the remains there now? They just weren't found by all these dogs? Members of Texas Search and Rescue provided 6 human remains dogs. So we're not talking about 1 or 2 fallible dogs here. We're talking about 6 dogs. So are these just the 6 most incompetent dogs? I mean, what's going on here? Handlers and flankers, in addition to numerous support and logistics personnel for this search. According to Greg Piles, Tex SAR Chief Executive Officer and Incident Commander, Texar expended approximately $25,000 for this search. So this isn't some, like, little hinky-dinky search with just a couple people. It's a $25,000 search. And this isn't the only search either. This is the October 24th, 2013 search. There have been many searches since. Texar is a nonprofit organization completely supported by private and corporate donations. This group only conducts law enforcement approved searches. Texar uses math and science based upon information provided by the family to determine the size and area to be searched. The organization has a great track record with a 95% success rate. Okay, so these are not schmoes. 95% success rate. That's pretty darn good. Their findings and reports have been proven accurate and stood up under scrutiny when used in court cases. Texar's team included officers with Texas Division of Emergency Management, Centex Search and Rescue, and the Louisville Police Department. They also brought in 2 game wardens with Texas Parks and Wildlife. Incident Commander Greg Pyle's resume lists several federal law enforcement positions. Okay, so these are a whole bunch of different individuals with seemingly high competency levels. So this was not a search done by just like 1 or 2 head guys and just 1 or 2 dogs. This was an extensive search. The Texar canines are highly trained. These HR dogs will not hit on varmint carcasses. However, dead hogs sometimes prove a distraction to HR animals. Each handler wears a GPS device which provided Brandon Goring, Operations Section Chief, an extremely detailed analysis of all areas covered. The search was extended to the northeast following 1 HR dog showing slight interest. However, even with the extension, the search revealed no sign of Brandon Lawson. No remains, no clothing, no wallet, no cell phone, no keys. Let me read that again. No remains, no clothing, no wallet, no cell phone, no keys. So this new search, was it done in a repeatedly searched area? Or it says in the vicinity of his last known whereabouts. So it's not like he wandered somewhere so far that wasn't searched before. According to Ledessa's statement here on Facebook, it's in the vicinity of his last known disappearance. So is this on a section of property belonging to the sheriff that was never allowed to be searched, and now it was searched for the first time, and it could be described as in the vicinity? I mean, these are all questions that need to be answered. We don't have the answers here. So criteria here. The criticism here, according to Brandon's wife, it should be noted that following this search, a cell tower notating a last ping was approximately 3 miles away from the truck in an area not yet searched. So, okay, so had that area been searched since? So this is the 2013 search. Following a conversation with Sheriff McCutcheon and Ranger Nick Hanna, the investigation will turn elsewhere and will not include any further searches unless new detailed information arises. The criticism here, the Sheriff and Ranger are both aware of the new details of the last cell ping being in an area further away. Now, which area of vicinity is 3 miles in the vicinity? I mean, I don't know. If there were areas not yet searched, they were searched for the first time 8.5 years later, but still in the vicinity, that could possibly explain the new information. But again, we don't have those details. Another curiosity here from Lost and Missing Incorporated, which posted on this site. It was publicly reported by law enforcement that Kyle was seen filling the gas can at 7 a.m. It was also publicly stated that Kyle and oil field workers searched for Brandon. As for all night, I don't know what he considered all night. Huh. I mean, that's information, but it doesn't necessarily help us that much. An interesting post by Axe Kicker here, September 14th, 2017. How the police could hear this call and not rule foul play tells you everything you need to know about what Brandon saw, and what he says he saw is true. He saw a state trooper execute someone he pulled over, and the fact that neither the police nor the private landowner will allow a cadaver dog or methane probe on the property tells you something else. That Brandon is likely buried on that land. The landowner has said he'd be willing to allow the search if the police say so, knowing they won't, since they killed Brandon. What else speaks to a cover-up? The edited phone call. Someone tried to edit Staper shot the first guy. They tried to cut the word Staper. They also tried to muffle the gunshots after the operator says hello. It's highly likely the police on the scene are also the same trooper Brandon ran into. Does Chief Deputy Neal know the landowners? I bet he does. Real well. I have a feeling both Brandon's girlfriend and brother know what happened but are too scared to go public with what they know, and who can blame them? Brandon was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and these troopers know everyone in town. Interesting theory there. Again, if that is what happened, that would explain a lot of the oddities in this case. Again, I'm not saying that happened. I wasn't there. I have no clue. I'm not going to hallucinate likelihoods, what's more or less likely. Obviously, this kind of situation has happened in the past. Did it happen here to Brandon Lawson? I have no idea. And without knowing exactly where the remains were found and whether or not they were in previously searched areas, because would the police allow a search? If the police are responsible, hypothetically, why would they allow a cadaver search where they know the body is? So if they knew he wasn't in that specific area, they would have allowed the search there. But another curiosity, supposedly they did expand the search based on the interest of one of the dogs, according to this article. Again, this article from the sheriff's wife, so who knows? But if it was expanded in the direction they knew he wasn't, if they're complicit, again, in this theory of law enforcement complicity. I am not alleging the theory is true or untrue. Another post here by Unknown that's quite interesting. The deputy arrived the same time as the brother. Did the brother see him arrive? They made such emphasis in regards to the trucker calling in about an abandoned truck. Surely a dispatcher would send to the sheriff, but Brandon's call was placed either way. The calls go through a nursing home. Surely they would have added up the two calls because no official search was done until morning. And the brother and Ledesser reported it. It seems off that the sheriff turned up at the same time due to the trucker placing a call, sheriff's deputy rather. Was the trucker questioned? He'd had to have seen something if he drove past the truck. At one point, he would have been going the way Brandon went. Two calls were placed to dispatch. It isn't a big place. They were both placed within, say, 5 miles of the truck, so would go to the same place, question mark. Why was it never added up that the abandoned truck was the same stranded motorist that the dispatcher logged? I mean, yeah, these are good questions. I mean, at that time, what is the normal volume of 911 calls in that area? Another theory, I'm not sure we went over exactly. An unknown poster posted this, April 2019. I feel like he said, there's a psycho just pushed some guys over. Maybe as in pushed them over the bridge and then hid out under the bridge. That's how he saw the cop and his brother pull up. Just my opinion. Yeah, I mean, again, if this is not law enforcement complicity, mostly just law enforcement incompetence and the need to cover that up, was there a killer in the area? Did Brandon see something? Maybe he ran. That would justify calling the police, maybe. I don't know. Another theory here that hasn't really been discussed is the CI angle. I know CI angles are starting to be talked about more, but how many of these old cases was a victim a CI and it just wasn't known about? Because obviously that wouldn't look good. So more cases might involve confidential informants than people think about. So here's another post by Unknown, June 15, 2019 here. I hear in the middle of a deal, I think we just screwed some guys over. I think he was an informant, and these people he met found out. Only if he was an informant would he call the cops. It's been stated he was working on something to do about his warrant. Okay. Yeah, if he was a CI, and there was a deal gone bad, if he had a warrant, didn't like the cops, whatever, this would also explain why he would call the cops. I mean, there's a few different scenarios that could explain the call. Here's another post here, March 19th, 2019. I think Brandon was being chased. This is why he didn't notice he was low on gas. He was trying to get away from someone. When he ran out of gas, he may have thought he lost them. But he seen them coming up on him and got out of his truck and ran. One guy got out of the car to pursue Brandon while the others remained in the car driving along looking for him. The man caught up to Brandon and there was an altercation. Brandon got the best of him. This is why he says, I got the first guy. Then the car stops and the others get out. Brandon runs into the brush area, then comes out in a clearing. This is when he makes the 911 call. This is why he says there's one car here. I'm in a field and I'm being chased into the woods. Brandon turns back to see if they're coming, but continues to talk to the operator, which is why it sounds like someone is in the background. Brandon also stated he had cuts, which would make sense as he ran through all that thick brush. Brandon sees the men are still pursuing him, and this is where he turns and runs. You can hear the wind blowing into the mic on the phone before the call terminates. We know that Brandon is still alive almost 30 minutes after the 911 call because he is still calling his brother. Whomever was chasing him did not hang around long, as no other cars were seen on the road by Kyle or Deputy Neal when they went looking for Brandon. My guess would be Brandon ended up falling into the Colorado River, which would explain why the phone suddenly went dead. However, I have heard at the time that the river was very low, so it's anyone's guess. Interesting theory there as well. Was there some kind of a chase situation? But again, why wasn't he found with all of these searches? I mean, these are questions that need to be answered. And if this is his clothing found now and his remains found now, again, it may or may not be. May or may not be. I mean, did Brandon wear the rarest designer type clothing in the area that nobody else would have worn? Or did he wear, jeans and regular t-shirts that many other people wore? Who knows? I mean, I think as a blue-collar worker, he probably wore the same type of clothing that most people in the area wore. So it's kind of hard to say that was definitively his clothing. But again, we'll have to wait for all the DNA testing. So yeah, there's so many questions in this case, and hopefully there can be closure and resolution. And if Brandon was met with foul play, obviously he deserves justice like anyone else does, and hopefully that can be found here in this case as well as all other cases. So we will be continuing to cover the Brandon Lawson case and all the latest updates in an attempt to resolve it. I mean, it's definitely a curious one. It's gotten a lot of attention. And like with a lot of these cases, I believe there should be enough information here if an independent investigation were to be done by outside parties, again, just to avoid conflict of interest. It's amazing how many people don't understand the concept of conflict of interest. Nobody's alleging that local law enforcement or even local Texas Rangers could be involved. It's just to have a completely outside neutral agency, not from the area and not compromised, that would just guarantee an objective, neutral, legitimate, honest investigation. And that's what this case, as well as any other case, deserves and needs. Hope you guys enjoyed another edition of Mindshock True Crime in the Brandon Lawson series. If you enjoy the podcast, you can help support the channel, donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can become a YouTube member on the YouTube channel for exclusive access to members-only content. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications for updates, and like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. You could also become a patron, support the channel that way. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.